Hello, and here goes another video from Sustenance and Cover, an only YouTube channel you need to not only survive the current apocalypse, but actually enjoy it. And recently I did a video where I talked about the cost of being a survivalist. And in that video I made the statement that the most money I ever made in my life was $1,009, and that was in 1985, and I had to go overseas to do it, and since then I've made about half of what I was making then. And before I even start this, I want to just clear up the idea behind that. I was in the U.S. military, Navy, and I got on a ship that was always at sea, and I was there for 5 years and 4 months active, from 1980 to 1985, actually 86 I guess. I put in for 30 days leave and actually left the boat on Christmas, or a day before Christmas, something like that. But anyways, I was on that boat with about 400 people. Oh, and then I said when I got out I went to working for about half that. When I got out I went to minimum wage, and I was just working 40 hours a week, and so I think back then I was bringing home like $130 a week, which that's about 520 bucks, $520 a month or so. A little over 500, maybe 600 a month. In my life, I have never made more than minimum wage. It's always been minimum wage everywhere I go. Now, every job I ever got, they promised me they'd pay me, $10 an hour or something, but none of them ever did it. And I'm not the kind of person to fight people. After 2 years of minimum wage, I'd usually walk off and start somewhere else. But anyhow, when we were on that boat, there was 400 guys on that boat, and probably 2 or 3 of us lived on the boat. I mean, our bed was there, the kitchen was there, a little lounge area was there, and we were at sea for 200 days a year. Seemed like no matter what, at least that, maybe 250 days a year. But them other guys who was making the same as me, about 600 a month, would get apartments that cost 600 a month. And since their entire income was what it cost for an apartment, they'd gang up. They'd have 4 Navy guys living in, paying on one apartment and buying groceries and gas back and forth and all that. And we didn't get but maybe 1 day a week that we got to go home in the evening, and then maybe 1 day a week that we was off the whole day. The rest of the time they kept us working all the time. So them boys was paying on all that rent on them apartments, never even going to them hardly. I don't know what was wrong with them. But anyhow, there was nothing to do at any of the bases we were at. I'd always just go to the base library, or the base movie theater, the base bar, the base grocery store, whatever they had over there. Try to stay out of trouble. And when I left after 5 years and 4 months, and I got to explain also why I was making so much money back then, because I never got any rank. But when you stay on a boat that's at sea, after your 4th year of being at sea, they give you $100 a month extra. And in the middle of that, we got hazardous duty pay for 2 conflicts that we were in. And so that was another $100 probably. And so I was able to save up $18,750. And you could pretty much double that now if I was still working. That'd be like having $30-something thousand in my pocket. So I got out and I moved in with my parents for a couple of months. And while I was there with them, I went out looking for land. I bought me a 2-acre lot out in the country for $4,000 for 2 acres, I think. I might be wrong, but I think that's what I paid. And I went down. Back then they didn't have a building code out in the country. Now, everything I'm going to tell you is beneficial simply because it can get you into my mind of how I got from there to here. But it's not going to benefit you in your being able to do this. So I'm 48 years old, and it took every year of that to get where I am. Although at 26 I had basically the same thing, but I don't believe this world is going to continue to function that much longer. But knowledge is power. So here you go. Anyhow, when I was in the Navy, I got this book called the Illustrated Book of House Building. Now this is a 2-volume set. I got this for, I think it was $1.99 because it was in the markdown thing. This is probably, I just don't understand why this ever even made it to the markdown. This is the best book ever. I checked it out maybe 12 times from the base library. Every time we'd pull into port, I'd check this book out and read it. I must have read it 5 or 6 times. During the same time, maybe when I was 18 years old, 19 years old, I ordered a little brochure. It was called Large Family, Small House or something like that. And it was just a brochure. It looked like somebody had made it at their house on a copy machine and stapled it in the middle and folded it. And there was an address where you could order plans for any of the houses that were in that brochure. And they were kind of stacked. They were nice little houses, but they made the claim that you could raise 6 or 7 kids, something like that, in the biggest house, and then just a wife and husband in a smaller house. But in any case, I drew plans based on that. And I'd draw my little washing machine, my refrigerator on there, and then I'd say, well, no, I don't want to do that. And for 6 years, or 5 years, 4 months that I was active, I was constantly drawing plans. And when I walked off the boat, I had this in my hand. And I went to the code office and I said, well, it's a 600 square foot house or whatever. And here's the address. And they took my money and gave me a permit. But they didn't have any inspectors back then. So basically it was just a way to get money from you. So I built that house. And I think I paid, I don't know, can you see that? I'll try to see if I turn at different angles and may not have no glare. But that little cabin was out in the woods, and me and my wife built that ourselves. I actually paid a jackleg to come up there, and he had a helper. I think I give him maybe $2,500, and he stayed with me for about a month. And I paid a man to dig me a well that was a jackleg. I don't even know if they'd allow that now. You know, if they caught you digging a well without a license, they'd probably put you in jail or something. So anyhow, I lived in that house for a while. And it was way out in the country, and there was a big hill in the front, and I guess we sold it and got like $32,000. So I was set one more time. I had a big old pile of money in my pocket, and I was still working for minimum wage. And I never went out and I'm 48. I ain't never had a credit card to speak of. My mama has put me on a credit card, and it goes to her, but I ain't never used it for anything. I think one time I was with her somewhere buying groceries, and she used my card for her gasoline or something. But and I've never had a mortgage, and I've never had a car note, and I never had a refrigerator note or a TV set note or a record player note, or I ain't never borrowed money from any kind of financial institution. Although I have borrowed money from Mama and Daddy before. But anyhow, I took that $32,000. And I come to this place here that where I was living was in the woods. This is in the city. But a friend of mine told me, said, man, there's this lot. It's at the end of this dirt road, and every lot for a mile is underwater or got a power line on it, or there's a road easement on it. And so no one's going to buy any of these lots. If you buy this 2 acres, it'll be the same thing as buying 1,000 acres, because ain't nobody ever going to move in there. Which isn't really true. They could do that, although we had that hurricane a while back, and it wiped out so many houses that real estate, there's probably a gazillion lots for sale down here that ain't tore up lots, you know, wooded lots or wet lots. So anyhow, once again, I started drawing, but this is the city. So in the city, the code office in the city is different than in the country. They actually want you to tell them what your house is like. So anyways, I went down to the code office, and I said, oh, and in the meantime, I got a book from the library for 10 cents. And it was How to Do Architectural Drawing or something like that. And I got this book, which I highly recommend this book. If you can find the Illustrated Book of House Building and Carpentry, and you're thinking about building a house, this is the book I'd recommend. Another book that helped me a little bit, but it's a little bit more technical, harder to, it's really not, I've never really enjoyed this, I've referred to it a couple of times, called Wood Frame House Construction from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Forestry Service, Agriculture Handbook number 73. But this one here, I got this after I got out of the military, probably around 1986. It's called The Family Handyman by Reader's Digest, How a House Works. Incredible book. If you're thinking about building a house by yourself out in the woods, either one of these books is highly recommended. And as far as the line drawings, I don't know. I don't have that book anymore. The book, when I bought the book for 10 cents, the back and front cover was missing, and 4 or 5 pages on each end. And I guess once I got here, I knew I was never going to use it again, and it was all tore up. And I think it went underwater during the storm, so I threw it away. But anyhow, I drew up some plans for this house, and these are the original. Well, not really the original plans, but they kind of are. Now this here's a page. This is one of the original pages. You can hardly see it anymore. It's got water on it. This got wet during the hurricane. But anyways, I brought this to the code office, and the man said, no, you got to bring me some plans. So I went back home, and I went ahead and put all the junk on them that they put on regular plans. You can see that. That went underwater too. And that went underwater. And I got a lot of other plans for different things I did out here, but I couldn't find them. But that man said, oh no, you got to get a architectural engineer, and you got to get a plan drawer, and you got to bring me them professional plans. Well, I checked into it. It was like $600–700 to get a set of plans, and you know, I knew that was going to be the cost of the whole roof of the house or something, or the slab. So anyhow, he gave me my plans back, and I went home and just dressed them up really nice. I mean, I really made them look nice. In fact, these are some of the final plans after going over it over and over and over again. And in fact, what happened was I went back maybe a week or two later, and he said, no, that's not what I want. I told you, you have to get some professional plans. And I said, oh, okay, I'll do that. So a week later I showed up, and he said, what are you doing here? I told you get some professional plans. And I said, well, okay, I'll do that. And I guess I must have worried that man for probably 6 months. And one day I walked in the office, and I had a smile on my face, and I had these same papers in my hand I've been bringing to him for 6 months, and I went like that, and the guy goes, and he was shaking, and his face was turning red, and he signed all of them, and he gave me a permit. But anyhow, that's how I got plans for this house without paying for them. Now I come out here, and I didn't hire nobody this time except for the block layer. This is all cement blocks, and I tried to lay some blocks. Man, you just wouldn't believe how hard it is to lay some blocks. But once I got a slab done, and I got the blocks laid, then me and my wife built the rest of this house. And I think it was $15,000 is what we spent on materials and the block layer and the guy that formed up the slab. Now, I also said in the video that my parents didn't help me with this, but I've always tried to help them, and I got to thinking about it. They actually did dig the well, and that was a big expense. It was like $3,000 to dig that well out there. But other than that, that's how, you know, I'm probably going to entitle this video something like how to build a house on minimum wage with no mortgage, but that's kind of misleading because I don't think that can be done anymore. You know, ever so often the government will raise the minimum wage, and they may raise it like 4% or something like that, and then you look at the cost of living since the last minimum wage increase, and the cost of living is like 70%. So basically, there will come a day if a person's working 40 hours a week minimum wage, married to somebody working 40 hours minimum wage, got 6 kids working minimum wage, that'll buy them some groceries, and they'll be able to get into public housing, and that's about it. So, oh, and just think of how bad it'd be if we weren't living in a free society, you know, a democracy where people can, you know, are not enslaved. Oh my God, think how bad it'd be if there was slavery still. That's it.